Greetings, friends, brother and sister, fellow spiritual rebels. Welcome to the forest. And I want to address a question that seems to have come up fairly recently about defining terms, spiritual language. And it always amazes me how difficult it is to find words for the things that we do within a spiritual context in English. And I think this is very deliberate. For most of our history, the organized religions have tried to sweep up people with spiritual gifts into their organizations to be servants of their particular discipline. And if they couldn't control people with spiritual gifts, if they couldn't bring them into their organization and control them through their organization, they would either exile them or end them. And this has been fairly consistent in most time periods and most nations within the scope of recorded history, because within the scope of recorded history, mankind has been subject to a farming practice that keeps us fairly available for those who wish to harvest our energy, but also controllable. In the same way that we have taken the canine species, and developed dogs that work with us and are companions to us, as opposed to wolves who are completely wild and sovereign and in their own being, mankind has been subject to the same sort of treatment in that most of us are domesticated. And that's never seen so clearly as through our spiritual gifts, our spiritual practices. So I don't think it's an accident that we struggle with finding words for the things that we do on a spiritual level. And one of the most important things within the discipline of taking control of your spiritual gifts is to take control of your language. So we want to be very, very clear the things that we do, the things that we say to each other to describe the things that we do, are accurate. In my particular case, I made mention that when I speak to you, I sometimes get feedback, I sometimes get advice or support from non-corporeal, in my case, guardians and guides, different entities, people really, who have gone on before, who linger on in between to help out. Often it's family members. It could be people who were friends. It could just be people who really support the same things that we are here to do, that we believe in, that we support. And they take a mentorship role in helping us understand, and in my case, helping me to explain. Because there are just some ideas and concepts that aren't easy to put into words. And also, too, they help me anticipate what problems might come up insofar as people who watch these videos in what they might need to understand, what would be useful for them. So I do get feedback. Now, getting feedback, talking to non-corporeal entities, people, is way different from channeling non-corporeal entities or people. In my case, I'm having a conversation, but I am fully present. I am sovereign and I am free. I am here. I am listening, and I'm using discernment as to what I'm going to share. In the same way as if a friend of yours calls out to you, tell them about the beer. You may decide to pass that message along, or you may decide that the people you're talking to, they don't need to know about beer. Why would you discuss that with them? You may decide just to ignore it. I do not pass along all the ideas, the jokes, some of them very bad, and the thoughts that are recommended to me from the peanut gallery of friends and guides, guardians, who may want to have a hand in what I share. This is different from, say, channeling. When somebody is channeling a spirit, or channeling a person, or channeling an entity, they are literally stepping back their conscious awareness and inviting another energy, another person, another being to come through their physical body and speak through them. You can do this as a human being. We are able to tune our consciousness to different levels of reality. We can make a choice to step back and invite another to come through. But this is something we have to be very careful of. We need to be in a very protected environment. We need to be very protective of ourselves and put limitations on how that's done. We need to make sure that it's only done for a finite amount of time. We need to make sure that we're not going to have a negative physical reaction to it. We need to make sure that when we're done with that particular experience, that everything of the other entity is removed and that door is firmly closed, or there's ramifications. There are people who have made agreements with non-corporeal entities where there is a flow between them and that entity, an ongoing relationship, in the same way that you might have a friend or a family member who's around you, who works very consciously and deliberately with you in your life. You can develop that with non-corporeals so that there is a relationship, so that if there's a problem on either end, the other partner may, almost immediately find out because there is an ongoing connection. But these need to be very deliberately, consciously agreed upon, deliberately maintained. There need to be boundaries between the two and understandings of, when things occur and when things need to be concluded. And again, there needs to be protection on either side. And it's something that you really have to have a working understanding of before you step into it. I've seen the problems that can occur when that doesn't happen. And it can be serious, and it can be bad. Honestly, humans ultimately and completely are designed to be sovereign in source. And when you stand within source, you can't help but be sovereign if you are completely centered in yourself. And that is what all of us need to periodically do, so that we are not unduly influenced by externals, which we are often bombarded with. The mental conditioning that many of us endure as a result of living within the society that we live, that's pretty serious. And I would say that it would be in competition with anything you can do with channeling. I think there's many different ways to be mentally influenced, and I think some of those are very dangerous. I think some of the brainwashing that happens is every bit as detrimental and dangerous as channeling practices when they're not done correctly. So just to be clear, I don't channel when I talk to you. It's a discussion, but I do pass messages on if I get them and I think that they're worth hearing. And if my language, if I get muddled up or confused about something I'm saying, I do take direction from those who know better than I do about some of these concepts and how to relay them. I appreciate help, and I appreciate help from you. So if you want to share thoughts and ideas, please do. I'd like to hear from you. And thank you for spending time with me. Welcome to the forest.